Hey, lovely, lovely, wonderful people. A pleasant evening to you. People, I see something here in the star. It says, not enough priests to fight demonic forces. I don't know, the background is in a thing their color. Let's see if I can see it and read it properly to you know. It says here, Catholic, one sec. Yes, beautiful people. So it says Catholic exorcists are asking the Pope to train more priests to deal with demons. There are reports that occult and satanic practices are growing around the world, you think? You know, so how people wicked and evil. Don't you see how evil and wicked people are? So there are reports that occult and satanic practices are growing around the world. Because of this, Pope Leo XIV met with a group called the International Association of Exorcists. I'm not laughing, people, believe you me. The group wants every Catholic area to have at least one trained exorcist. They also want better training and clearer rules. Father Francesco? That's how it's pronounced. Let's call it Father Francesco Bamont warned that ignoring the problem could lead people to seek help in the wrong places. During the meeting, the Pope was given a book of guidelines and a special image of Saint Michael. He thanked the exorcists and gave them rosaries. Some exorcists say more people are trying occult practices and becoming distressed. They believe better training will help protect people. However, critics say many of these cases may actually be medical or mental health issues. They warn that calling it a spiritual war could scare people and stop them from getting proper treatment. Exorcists say they already check for medical issues and follow strict rules. More than 300 exorcists met last year, showing that this work is growing worldwide. All right. Okay. In life, I'm going to say this to you, beautiful people. Let me start from this premise. We all have our different biases, prejudices, and discriminatory ways, no matter how sweet and wonderful we are. Nelson Mandela did. Martin Luther King Sr., Martin Luther King Jr., the great Martin Luther King Jr. did. Mother Teresa did. No matter what you want to believe, people, we all have our biases, we all have our prejudices, we all have our discriminatory things about us. And it doesn't mean that what we have is unjust, or it is unfair, or it is evil, or it is wicked. It is how we are trained. We are mere mortals. The Bible says, for we know in part. So we will not know everything, and not everything we will accept that comes in our path and comes in our way. No, I don't really, this is me personally, and this is not an indictment on anybody's religion. I don't really necessarily subscribe maybe to the beliefs and the practices of Catholicism. That's me. I am more from the, maybe you would call it, let us call it, they claim that Christianity is birthed out of Catholicism, and one of the things is that I follow what Jesus says. When he came to impart his kingdom, his heavenly kingdom in earthly minds, for them to understand that once they leave this earthly world, his kingdom is what they're going to really benefit from. And that is why he came with the good news. His good news. So when I see the thing about going to Saint Michael, which they're really referring to Michael, the archangel, who is a created being, I will part ways with that, because only the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah can really deliver people who may be possessed. Let us put it that way. No angel can do it. No human being can do it. Yes, God can use you as a conduit to create this, because he's in a spiritual world, in a sense, if you understand. So he uses us as physical beings to conduct his work. So when I read it, you can talk about exorcism. I'm not laughing, in the way that you think. It's just, sometimes you say to yourselves, that people think that this is a sort of, almost like when you're manufacturing a motor vehicle, you say we train the people and so forth. It's a gift from God, based on the relationship, one, that you have with God, and two, based on your calling that you have with him, that will give you the ability to go and deliver people who may be possessed. Go and deliver. And that is my belief. So let me just raise my hands where that is concerned. And you have all right to believe what you believe. I'm not here to control or to force what I am positing to you where that is concerned. I'm going to, one of the sad realities is this, and this is why you find one of the things that God has done for us, I want people to really understand this, is that God has compartmentalized our bodies. So he created us. So in my body, for example, he would create there is where the engine and the transmission should be. So what is the most important part of a vehicle? The engine and the transmission? I don't know. I'm going to say that. The engine is a driving force of the vehicle. So let's say engine, transmission. So we're going to use that as a representation of God. So that is a spot that only God must fill. Sorry. That's a spot that reserves for God. Then you probably have some other parts, the coil packs, then the spark plugs and the this, the that, where, for example, the husband, if it's a wife, must fill, but if it's a woman, it must be my husband. If it's a man, it must be his wife. And then there's a spot that his child or children must fill if they have children. And then there's a one for his mother, his father, his siblings. And then you have the other relatives possibly. And then friends, and then associates. And you even have a little space where if you love them enemy, because if you don't love them, you go against the laws of the land. So you have to, so God has compartmentalized us. But the bigger portion, the more core portion, belongs to him and only him. What has happened is that the enemy has confused the minds of people, and that spot is not yet filled. The engine is not working. The transmission is out, so the car is not functional really. It is malfunctioning. And people are feeling the effects of the malfunction. And what they're doing is that the church now, the church of God, I'm not talking about a denomination. The church of Jesus Christ himself, I'm not talking about a denomination, has not been effective enough in spreading the good news, not just verbally, but through their actions. You hear what Jesus had said? By your love for each other will tell me that you're a disciple of God. And that is not evident. I see more hate among the so-called brethren than love. So when the people look on and say that, then I say, if them I hate each other, that the place that they want me to go, he's a God that they want me to serve? Absolutely not. And they go elsewhere because that spot needs to be filled. They can't be running in a malfunction way too long. So they seek other means. They seek omens. They seek necromancy. They seek witchcraft, occultism, all of these things. And because they don't understand how serious the spiritual world is, they get possessed. And I'm not talking about people who genuinely have a mental issue. That's a different case altogether. There's some people who are genuinely possessed by demons. They are. You think I pick them when Jesus sent the demon them into alone? And I'm just using that as a little sideway, a little offshoot conversation. No, there are people who are. Because the heart of man is desperately wicked. People are rebellious at nature and they're vipers. And unfortunately, the church has really not been effective in their attitudes and their actions towards each other. And they have sometimes spread a false gospel. Not the good news, not the gospel of Jesus Christ. And they have no qualms in tearing down people, in making people feel like crap. Then what do you think they're going to do? They're going to seek omens, obia people, witchcraft, or it gets worse, occultism, the evil, and Satanism. So it's up to the church to know, to make their calling and election sure. Anyway, guys, you know what to do with TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe, give me one of those lines, and follow me on Instagram.